What's up there, fuzzy nipple pinchers? Lurks here, and I'm going to talk about why I decided to make my own fursuit body. Now, before I get started, some of you may be like, where the heck have you been? Believe it or not, as of March 15th, we've been making these videos for 7 years. And in those 7 years, we have never taken a break longer than 2 weeks in between videos. Although we've been pretty resilient compared to a lot of YouTubers, you have to admit it's inevitable that there's going to be some level of burnout at that point. That did indeed happen. I get to the point where I just did not want to even think about going through all the work of editing a video and took some time off. But we are back better than ever. In fact, we're going to have 3 videos for you in the next 4 weeks to make up for our little break. All right, let's get on with the topic of the day. So let's go way back to summer of 2023, a whole 18 months ago. I worked really hard that summer and I made a little bit of extra money with overtime. And I said, you know what I want to do? I want to get a nice, light, comfortable, plantigrade body for lurks. If you've seen this body, I'll put a picture of it up here. It is very chonk digitigrade. It takes up a lot of room in airline luggage and it can be tiring to walk in, especially at cons like MFF or Megaplex that just require a lot of walking. So I figured it would be a great idea to get a plantigrade secondary suit body for those occasions. And I commissioned a local fursuit maker. I was under the impression that they were a high quality maker and that they were pretty experienced. In fact, they told me that my suit body would be their 45th fursuit that they'd made. Pretty impressive. I went over to their studio, they did a duct tape dummy on me right there, so I knew that the suit was going to fit properly and there wouldn't be any mistakes in a duct tape dummy that I made and mailed to them. So fast forward a few weeks and about $1,000 out of my pocket, and I had my fursuit body, and it had some issues. First of all, they didn't use the fur I asked them to use. They had obviously used a cheaper fur. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Secondly, the legs were like comically short. And again, this person made the duct tape dummy themselves. There should be no excuse to have the legs and actually also the arms too short, but they were. The suit was also super loose and baggy. It looked like the Chewbacca costume from Star Wars. It was really ridiculous. A plantigrade suit body should be form-fitting and relatively tight. So it was under warranty, and I had them address the length of the legs, and I had them address the baggy body. They tapered it in, and it looked pretty good. I figured, you know, it's not the greatest suit body in the world, but I got what I paid for. That was until the seams started failing. Yeah, after about a year, it started blowing seams all over the place, and I looked at the sewing, and I was like, this doesn't look right. I'm not an experienced fursuit maker, but there were like 3 loose, kind of sloppy stitches per inch, and it was just falling apart. It obviously wasn't done the way my other suits were. This one, for instance, is 5 years old and has never blown a single seam. It's almost in mint condition. Also, it became apparent that the fur was even cheaper than I realized. It was kind of thick and had a good backing, but the quality of the fur strands themselves were just kind of garbage. So at this point, I had a decision to make. Either I spend probably $2,000 to $3,000 commissioning a brand new plantigrade fursuit body for lurks, or I resew the existing body and just deal with the quality issues, or I make one myself. And I elected number 3. I said, how hard can it be? And I'm going to take you along on the journey of me figuring out how hard it actually is. I started out without a whole lot of knowledge about what it would take to make my own fursuit. I didn't know what it would cost. I didn't know how long it would take, but I was about to find out. First of all, I bought the same high quality, sleek, beautiful fur that's on this digitigrade body. I wanted the plantigrade body to match and to have the high quality fur I had requested in the first place. And that fur was not nearly as expensive as I thought it would be. I was told I needed 5 to 7 yards of fur for a plantigrade fursuit body. I don't know how big they thought I was, but I could easily make 2, like with mistakes and having to recut pieces out of the 5 yards I got. And that 5 yards was only about $150. It wasn't bad at all. Obviously, there were some sewing supplies, and I elected to buy a sewing machine, which didn't work. And then I bought another sewing machine, which didn't work. And then I bought another sewing machine, which initially didn't work and finally sort of started to work once I figured out what I'd been doing wrong. And then I realized a big mistake that I had made. I had used the old fursuit body for a pattern. I just cut all the seams and I patterned the new one on the new nice fur off of the old one. The problem is when you're using a sewing machine, you have to have something called seam allowance. It's like extra space on the edges of the pieces of the pattern to make up for the fact that you can't sew right on the edge, and you're going to have to sew a ½ inch in or so and then trim the rest off. I didn't do that, so it means even if I could get the sewing machine to work for a fursuit body, which was questionable, I was going to have to hand sew it because I had cut the pattern to be hand sewed. You don't have to have that seam allowance when you're hand sewing. So I was stuck doing it by hand, which I haven't started yet, and which is going to take a really long time. I am confident that I can do it though by hand. I'm going to use a proper, nice, tight blanket stitch like should have been used on the fursuit body in the first place. Not some loose, lazy stitching that's going to fall apart. On top of that, I'm using really high quality, really strong upholstery thread to make sure the suit's going to stand the test of time. Alright, so what other lessons have I learned about making my own fursuit body? It makes a huge mess. I had no idea what a mess fursuit making is. There is fur everywhere in my guest bedroom. I made the mistake of laying out the fur on top of a white comforter. It is like trashed. I don't know if that black fur is ever going to come out of there. It is all over the carpet. It is all over the floors. It's like spreading around the house. Making fursuits is messy. I would highly recommend, if you are considering starting to make fursuits, that you do that in a room that has all hard surfaces that are easy to clean. No carpet, no bedding, no curtains, nothing like that that fur is going to stick to, or it's going to make a huge mess and it's just going to get worse over time. So I still have a lot of questions right now. First of all is, am I going to be able to finish it by TFF, which is next weekend? What is it going to look like when I'm done? I already had to recut a couple pieces of the pattern that weren't done right. The third question is it going to fit properly once I'm finished with it? Now, this fursuit maker obviously wasn't as experienced as they were claiming to be. The way they patterned the suit and cut out the pieces was a little weird. It's not typical of what a really experienced fursuit maker would do. Like the arms and legs are 2 pieces instead of just 1. Stuff like that makes me wonder if the pattern's going to work or not, but I think it is. If nothing else, I'm going to learn a new skill, and I'm going to figure out if maybe fursuit making is something I want to do in the future, or if I never want to make this mess of my house again. I'm not sure which I'm going to decide, but it's going to be an interesting journey. Hopefully the suit body comes together, I'll have it at TFF, and it'll be awesome. But we'll have to wait and see. So, would I recommend you making your own fursuit body? Yeah, definitely, if you don't have the money to hire somebody else to do it. There are some great tutorials out there, and if you take your time and you follow the procedure, you can come up with some really good results. And the great thing is, it's way, way cheaper to make your own than it is to commission one. You're paying for that artist's labor, you're paying for their time, and it can be pricey. If they know what they're doing, they're going to charge accordingly. But if you have the time and the patience, you can make your very own fursuit body. You can make all the parts too. You can make the head if you want to go that far. And you can do it really cheaply, but you have to figure what your time is worth. If nothing else, it'll be an interesting project, and you, like me, can decide whether it's something you want to do again after you attempt the first one. I'd recommend you go for it. Just understand it's going to create a huge mess of your house. Alright, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. What do you think about making my own fursuit body? Should I have done it? Should I have commissioned somebody to do it? Are you going to try to make your own fursuit body sometime? Or maybe your own whole fursuit? Thanks as always to our super awesome patrons, and again, I'm sorry for the gap in content. These incredibly generous people help fund this content, so it's not draining my personal finances, as the stock market has done that already in the last few days. Thanks for stopping by. We are going to be at Texas Furry Fiesta next weekend, and you better believe we're making a video. We'll have that out the next week, and then another one we've been wanting to make the week later. Content is going to be coming at you again. Have an awesome week. Until next time, you stay safe and you stay fuzzy.